See everybody this morning. I want somebody to look up Matthew chapter 3, verses 13 through 17 and read it. Skip, you got that one? Frank? Mark 1, 9 through 11. And then, Rick, will you read Luke 3, 21 through 22? And this is talking about the baptism of Jesus. And the reason I wanted to do this is because, the question that John the Baptist asked, you kind of think, okay, what happened between this time and this time? So, go ahead, Matthew 3,
Matthew 3:13
through 17.
Then Jesus came from Galilee to the Jordan to be baptized by John. But John tried to deter him, saying, I need to be baptized by you, and do you come to me? And Jesus replied, Let it be so now. It is proper for us to do this to fulfill the righteousness. And John consented. As soon as Jesus was baptized, he went up out of the water. At the moment heaven was opened, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting on him. And a voice from heaven said, This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased.
All right. Frank?
At that time, Jesus came from Nazareth in Galilee and was baptized by John in the Jordan. As Jesus was coming up out of the water, he saw heaven being torn open, and the Spirit descending on him like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased.
All right. And the Luke chapter 3.
Luke chapter 3, verse 21 and 2. When all the people were being baptized, Jesus was baptized too. And as he was praying, heaven was opened, and the Holy Spirit descended on him in bodily form like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased.
All right. Matthew 3, I probably should have went back a little bit earlier in that one. He says, I baptize you with water for repentance, but after me comes one who is more powerful than I, whose sandals I am not worthy to carry. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire. His winnowing fork is in his hand, and he will clear the threshing floor, gathering his wheat into the barn and burning up the chaff with unquenchable fire. Did John the Baptist know that Jesus was the Messiah at that point? When he baptized him? No? You don't think he did?
But didn't he say when he saw Jesus coming toward him, here comes one I'm not worthy to...
Yeah, he did say that.
That's an interesting, that's why then later did he say, Are you the one? We should be expected.
Right.
So maybe being in prison kind of messed him up.
Yeah. I wonder about it. If at that moment, if he didn't hear God's voice say that this is my Son, in whom I'm well pleased, right? I think that would have been a sign to me that this must be the Messiah. I don't know about you, but do you think he heard it?
That occurred after, didn't it?
Well, I thought it said when he come up out of the water. What did it say?
So, so John recognized him as the Messiah prior to that.
Even prior to the baptism?
Well, based on what Jan said there, when he asked to be baptized,
Mm-hmm.
he said he wasn't worthy.
Right.
Wasn't there somewhere he said, Behold, the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world? Wasn't that John the Baptist? I might think of something else.
That's John 1. He
Yeah.
says, Behold, the Lamb of God So he's even if he doesn't realize he's Messiah, he realizes that he is somebody. He is greater, he is of God.
Right.
So,
So the verses I read there in Matthew 3, though, where he's talking about what is he going to do? What did he say that Jesus was going to do? Was it? I went away from it now. He's going to separate the wheat from the chaff. Why do you do that? You're going to burn up the chaff, right? What else is he going to do? He'll baptize with the Holy Spirit. He's got the winnowing fork in his hand. He's gathering his wheat into the barn. He's burning up the chaff with his unquenchable fire.
he's gonna cut down useless trees.
Yeah. So what did John the Baptist think the Messiah was going to do?
Clean house.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty clear about what he thought the Messiah would be like when he got here, when he arrived on the scene. And then when he got there, I guess, it wasn't that way, was it? So what did, so where is John now in Matthew 11? Let's go back to where we're at. John's status, he's in prison because he condemned Herod Antipas publicly, said that his marriage was a violation of the law. He was at this fortress, this hilltop palace in Jordan, and he's in prison. He's in prison there. But as you hear the question that he asked his followers to go ask Jesus, I think he's feeling offended. I think his expectations of what Jesus was going to do when he was here, the Messiah was going to do, it's not that way. I mean, he's feeling like I put my faith in. I'm talking about this Messiah that's going to come, and if he's him, he's not doing what I thought he was going to do. And so I think he's kind of a little bit, I put the word outraged. I think he's kind of upset. He's in prison. And the Messiah that he's kind of paving the way for has come in, and he's eating and drinking, and he's healing people, he's doing all these things, but he's not doing what I thought he was going to do. His expectations were completely different. And he asked, are you the Messiah? Are you the Messiah? Let me get over there. I keep jumping around. Matthew 11. Let's read some of that. We've already read it, I think. Maybe we don't need to read it again. He says, are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else? I think it's getting serious in Jesus' ministry at this point. And there are many people that have followed him because he's doing all these healings and miracles and things like that. But now he's beginning to kind of accept the role as the Son of God, the Messiah that's here. And there are many people that are beginning to question some of the things that he's done. And then Jesus' reply. Go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me. So, it's kind of interesting that he says, go tell him I'm doing all these things, but blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me. I think that verse is kind of telling you where Jesus is coming from. He's thinking, I've offended some people because they're not meeting their expectations. And John the Baptist is one of those. Don't be offended because I'm not doing what you thought I should be doing. I'm doing what I came to do, and that is I'm healing, I'm helping the poor, those that need help is who I'm addressing, those that I'm addressing. So I think that's interesting to me. So who is open to Jesus? It's the blind, the lame, those with leprosy, the deaf, the dead, the poor, and they hear the good news of Jesus, and they accept it. But it's offensive to those that are privileged and cultured, the intellects, the educated, the good, the wealthy. And in this chapter, he goes on to talk to them about this generation and how they are acting all childish because they're not getting their way. They have their own agenda. Jerry's reference this morning, Isaiah 61. Go back and look at that. I have not picked up on that connection. Let's look back at what he said there. Isaiah 61. Has anybody got that one? Did y'all catch what he said about that? Let's see.
What verse?
Verse 1. The Spirit, go ahead. How about
The
you?
Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God. How hard.
Keep going.
To comfort all who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of the spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor. They will have,
Yep.
how far do you want me to go?
That's good enough.
Okay.
One of the things that I noticed in there, and it's maybe Jerry talked about it, I don't think he did, but he says to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn, and to provide for those who grieve in Zion. I mean, if you read these verses and you think about the word vengeance, it kind of leads you to where John the Baptist was thinking, right? I mean, he's coming in, he kind of believes it, that the Messiah is going to come in and he's going to get vengeance on those that hurt these other folks. I will say this, well, let's look at Isaiah 35 is where I was looking at. Verses 4 through 6. I don't think I got the right verse here.
But God coming with vengeance.
Yeah, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah. You want to read that, Carl?
Sure. 4 through 6.
No, do 3 through 6.
3 through 6, okay. Strengthen the feeble hands, steady the knees that give way. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong, do not fear, your God will come. He will come with vengeance, with divine retribution. He will come to save you. Then will the eyes of the blind be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then will the lame leap like a deer, and the mute tongue shout for joy. Water will gush forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert.
So that could also be another reference to what Jesus was saying there, and it does have the blind and the lame and the mute. But again, it talks about he will come with vengeance, with divine retribution, and he will come to save you. So let's think about this. If Jesus was coming for vengeance and retribution for all those that had sinned, would there be anybody left? I mean, even John the Baptist wouldn't have made it, right? Because, I mean, he had sin in his life too, just like everybody else. So what John was asking for, or thinking the Messiah was going to come to do, would have been bad for him. So when he says he's coming with vengeance, he's making a way for those that are not perfect to have salvation and be be okay. He could not bring blessings without judgment. How can you bring blessings without judgment? All right. Let's go on to Jesus' view of John the Baptist. Let's look down. How far down? I'm still in Isaiah. Matthew 11. Let's see, where do we get to? After he kind of tried to tell him what to say about, to reply to John, he then starts talking about John. In verse 11, he says, "Truly I tell you, among those born of women, there is not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist." So if there's ever a question, who's the greatest person that ever lived, I guess we'd have to say John the Baptist. Jesus. But anyway, John the Baptist. Yet, whoever is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been subjected to violence, and violent people have been raiding it. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John, and if you're willing to accept it, he is the Elijah who was to come. Whoever has ears, let them hear. So the fact is, John the Baptist was the first prophet that had come about in hundreds of years. The prophets had been kind of silent all that period of time. And John the Baptist, is the link between God, and he's paving the way for Jesus, the Messiah, to come. So he's in a very important role. He fulfills a very important role, connecting the Old Testament to the Jesus, the Messiah. The spirit of Elijah is what he has. Now, do you think he was Elijah coming back? Y'all are looking. He is Elijah who was to come. Is he Elijah?
Not physically. Representatively, yes.
Yeah. I put it and phrased it as the spirit of Elijah in my notes, because I think he's coming back with the same insight, the same spirit that Elijah had, and he's kind of going through a little similar things that Elijah went through, and he's in John the Baptist's case, he's preparing the way for God's arrival. Now, this next bullet, I want you to think about this. He lived and died before the full arrival of the kingdom. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. So he died before Jesus was crucified, right, on the cross, and before he was resurrected. So he lived in a time. He lived kind of in the Old Testament law. So he was still prophesying, still carrying the word about Jesus and the Messiah, and paving the way for the Messiah. And he filled a very important role. But it says that yet whoever is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. The biggest moral failure, the weakest of all, standing with the righteousness of Jesus, is greater than John the Baptist. Wow. So we put ourselves, we burden ourselves, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit, living up to some kind of standard that we could never reach anyway. But if you have the righteousness of Jesus with you, then you've far exceeded anything that John the Baptist or any human could ever achieve. It's not about approval or performance.
With my righteousness.
Yep. And then greatness was measured by accepting redemption. The redemption work of Jesus and advancing the kingdom of heaven. is that the measurement that we use? I don't think so. I think we put a lot of stuff in there with it. You know? So, anyway, we'll keep going. All right, Matthew 11:16 through 24. Let's look at that. Somebody want to read that for me? Walt, will you read it?
Yeah. To what can I compare this generation? They are like children sitting in the marketplace and calling out to others. We played the pipe for you, and you did not dance. We sang a dirge, and you did not mourn. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say he is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is proved rightly by her deeds. Through 24. And Jesus began to denounce the towns in which most of his miracles had been performed, because they did not repent. Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethsaida! For if the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it will be more bearable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you. And you, Capernaum, will you be lifted to the heavens? No, you will go down to Hades. For if the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Sodom, it would have remained to this day. But I tell you that it will be more bearable for Sodom on that day of judgment than for you.
All right. So, Jesus is talking to the people there that are really listening to him talk, listening to what he's got to say about John the Baptist. And he's comparing them to children. And children, they want to be seen. They want to get their way, right? They have their own agenda for life, and I was sitting there with Claire this morning. She did not want that book. She smacked that book out of my hand. So, I mean, a child, you know, when they see things that are not going the way they expect it to go, or that where they want it to, they react. And when they saw what John the Baptist was doing, they criticized him for, they said he had a demon. And he didn't either drink or, I mean, he was living in the desert. And then when Jesus came and he didn't act that way, they called him a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom is proved right by her deeds. Steve and I were talking about this last night when he was driving, and I said, what does that message tell you? What does that say? And in my mind it says you can't please people. Or if you do please people, you please them every once in a while, and then you won't the rest of the time. Is that what y'all take from that? Can you please people? And is that our responsibility to please people? Is it? Y'all gotta give me something more than that. Yeah.
Jesus told his disciples that if the towns they went into would not accept the teaching, you know,
Shake the
to
dust off your
leave and
feet.
knock the dust off your feet. So,
Yeah.
But it's as much as we are able, we are to live at peace with our neighbor, with people, and so in that way.
Live in peace. I agree with that.
I think you combine these two things and you've got this live at peace with people, but don't compromise God's word.
Right.
And so find a peaceful way to be with people, whether they believe what you believe or not. Don't compromise the word, but also be kind.
Mm-hmm. Did Jesus live at peace with people?
Which people? And I mean, isn't that the question? Which people? Because he did live at peace with his disciples, with his apostles. He did not live at peace with the synagogue leaders and the temple leaders, so that's
Yeah.
why I said which people.
Yeah,
If you turn everyone's world upside down
Oh, yeah.
at
Yeah.
one time or another,
mhm,
just,
yeah. So if people have expectations, about whatever, and you don't meet those, can you be at peace with each other?
It's really up to them, I would think. I mean,
Up to
you can
the,
be at peace with somebody, they may not be at peace with you.
yeah, yeah. I think this is kind of talking about how we live our life, you know, and really the message that he's trying to give us here is trying to meet the expectations of a group of people, whatever people that is. It may be your family, it may be work, church, whatever it is. Don't think that's the point of life. And if you carry that burden, which we're going to talk about a little bit more later, that's a pretty heavy burden. If you're trying to walk around pleasing everybody, which I have a tendency to try to do, I think that's a heavy burden. And Jesus didn't necessarily achieve that himself, did he? I mean, he did what God called him to do. And if there were people that criticized him for doing that, then he kind of, I mean, he was okay with that, right? Or was he?
If you just back up to chapter 10,
Yeah.
and he's sending out the 12,
Mhm.
he says, "Don't suppose I've come to bring peace, but a sword." to
Yeah.
earth."
Yeah. Wow.
Which I've honestly had trouble reconciling that.
Yeah.
But,
I wonder if it's a different kind of peace that he's talking about there. Not necessarily a
not what we
peace.
think of.
What?
Not what we think of. as
Not what we
peace.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's maybe a peace that's not necessarily all of us getting along with each other all the time. I don't know. Maybe is that what he's talking about? Or is he talking about a different kind of peace? What other kind of peace would there be?
Peace with God primarily.
Peace with God? Yeah. That was his focus, is trying to make sure he was lined up with what God wanted him to do. And then there were times, though, that put him in conflict with others.
Peace is not necessarily appeasement.
Yeah,
I think sometimes we think about, in order to have peace, we appease,
right,
placate.
right.
That's not what Jesus did. He came, and the kingdom comes with force,
Mm-hmm.
and it disrupts,
Yeah,
and it defies expectation. It doesn't appease our expectation.
mm-hmm.
So in that way, peace,
Yeah.
in that sense, is disrupted.
Well, it does
Peace in a
say-
greater sense is established through God, with God.
I think he does down there talk about forcefulness of the kingdom and the forcefulness of men. I don't think that's talking about the kind of, I don't know, not appeasement or whatever you want to call it that we might sometimes think it is.
And maybe his point here, what do I compare this generation? You're not gonna please them.
Yeah. Yeah. And has anything changed since that point, I guess is the other question.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna, you can't win,
Yeah,
maybe is what he's saying,
yeah, yeah.
if that's what you're trying to do.
Yep, that is. All right.
That statement there at the end, wisdom is proved right by her deeds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think what Matthew is setting up and what the whole story of the Bible has been about, you've got a choice between two paths to wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the wisdom that God provides, you've got the wisdom that the earth provides, and you make a choice between which one you're gonna follow. And the godly wisdom is gonna be proved right in the end, and but it is offensive to people who are not accepting of that, and that's not gonna mean we have an absence of conflict with the people that we are opposing.
Right, right. That's very good. So, yeah, it's not an absence of conflict. So that doesn't sound like peace, though. Conflict doesn't sound like peace. I don't know. It's interesting to see what Jesus ran into with this particular thing. Then he goes on and talks about these cities where he did all this great, wonderful miracles, and how they should have been the ones that should have been accepting of him more than any other. They were, and the word is privileged. They were privileged to see all these things and be a part of his kingdom coming. But yet, even though they saw that, they were part of it, and they didn't necessarily accept it. It wasn't those that accepted it. It was those that none of those things happened there. And it was the poor. It was those that needed him, needed hope that he provided, that really accepted him. I ask this question: do we recognize the privilege of being a part of the kingdom of heaven? And if you think about that, let's think about that. Because we are privileged to be a part of the kingdom of heaven, there's some responsibilities that we have too. Is that true? Are there responsibilities that we have?
I think working to be agents of peace is that responsibility.
Yeah.
And here is the,
It's the rub, yeah.
that's the rub.
Yeah.
Yes.
When things don't go our way, do we quit believing? When we have, just because he says that, things are going to go well, my yoke is easy, that doesn't mean that things are always going to go perfectly for me, right? Or does it?
The yoke is still a burden.
Yeah.
Even though the burden is lighter because Jesus helps you carry it, it doesn't remove the burden. He says, I will help you carry your yoke, not I will do it all for you.
I liked Jerry's analogy this morning that they hooked two oxen to the same yoke, and the older, mature one carries it for the younger until that younger becomes stronger and can carry it itself.
But that younger one is still carrying part of the load.
Yep. What about in our case? Well, we're getting into the yoke and the burden. Come to me, you who are weary and heavy laden. Think about what Jesus said. Could you ever say that to someone? Most of us have kids, and could you see, I can't see myself looking at my son or daughter and saying, just follow your dad, do what he says, or maybe I do that, I don't know, do I do that? Do I have the audacity to think that they should just follow me and do exactly what I did?
Well, that's what Paul said, right? Follow me as I follow Christ.
Yeah.
It's pretty bold, but
Yeah.
I think we can aspire to that anyway.
Yeah.
Do you think it's to really follow that expression, that line there, or is it, come, let me help you share? When you say, come to me, you are weary and heavy laden, let me share. Let me understand what you carry, let me help you.
Right.
Not just follow me,
Yeah.
do what I do.
Come to me is a little bit different than
So
following.
it's almost a relationship
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And Jared, I think you do that anyway
Mhm.
with your kids and your grandkids, because if they come to you and say, how do we do this? This isn't working. Philip is not listening again. He's so nuts. How can we do this? And you may not take over all of it, but you can say, well, hey, this is what worked with Clay. This is what we did. This is what happened. You're not fixing it for them, but you're carrying that burden with them. You're helping guide them through a rough patch.
Right.
We're doing it now. We're spending 2 days a week in Huntsville right now,
Mhm.
helping our daughter with her new baby and her 2 older kids guiding her through. We're not gonna do that forever, but for now, we're gonna share that yoke with her to help her get through. It's not that we're going down and saying, this is how you do this. It's, no, we're gonna share this with you. So I think, and Jerry brought up the illustration this morning with the lady who was cutting his hair. Do you have a church praying with you and walking with you in this? And it almost hurts to hear her say, no, it's a great church, they do wonderful concerts, they do wonderful things, but nobody there knows anything going on in my life. It's going to sound harsh, but to me that church failed. They're failing them. They're not sharing that yoke. They're not being a part of each other. So I don't think this is saying, do it my way. I think this is saying, I will walk with you and I will show you a better way. I will share the burden with you and help you do better. But it's not, you have to do it my way or forget it. You know,
Yeah. I do think though, I would be careful about saying to my kids or anybody else that I'll help fix all your problems. You know, because I can't. I know there's limitations. Now, in God's case, Jesus' case, he can. Now he doesn't. I mean, he didn't get John the Baptist out of prison. You know, so, but he does. He is there to help carry the load. So let's look at that. 28 through 30. To me, this is the verses that most people that know anything about the Bible remember. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So, there's two things that we know about all people. First, they're weary. There's a certain weariness in almost all of us, if not all of us. And all of us carry burdens. And that is just the way it is. Now, Matthew 23:4, somebody read that for me.
They tie up heavy, cumbersome loads and put them on other people's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them.
Right. So he's talking about the Pharisees and comparing them to his law or his faith. And in Acts 15, if you remember that's where they were trying to decide what the Gentiles needed to do to be part of the church. And Paul and them talked about it. They didn't want to add burdens to the Gentiles. Burdens are something very real in our life, and we all have to deal with them. And all of us need some kind of spiritual rest from those burdens. Now, that doesn't mean the burdens are going to go away. It's just we have to spiritually be able to handle those in a way that we still believe and have faith in God. And I wrote down perfectionists, workaholics. We know we should be perfect. Finding ways to prove ourselves. Those are all things that we do in life. Maybe I'm the only one that tries to do that. I told you last week I love it when y'all tell me I did a good job teaching. I want to be perfect. I want to be great. And then when I'm not, which I'm most of the time not, I feel guilt and anxiety, and I never feel like I'm living up to what I should be. Does anybody feel like that? You think that's something that God gave us? We know we don't live under the law of Moses. We know we don't have the sacrifices. We know we don't have the works. That everything that we do is by grace. But yet, we still feel this burden. Do you feel it? Of like I need to live up to something.
I decided that's a gift.
Is it a gift?
Yeah, I think it's a gift because it reminds me of my need for God. It reminds me moment by moment that I can't do this without Jesus. And so I see that as a gift. It's not a gift I sought out. It was just one bestowed upon me. But I've decided to take that and use that to improve my relationship with God.
That's good. That's good. I think though, so what about the things that I said, guilt and anxiety? Is that,
Oh, sure, that falls in
you
there
think that's a
too.
gift too?
That falls in there too.
I think guilt can be a tool of Satan as well, because
Oh,
guilt
yeah.
keeps us shackled, can help us, make us, lead us to give up. Just can't do this.
Yeah, yeah. But I wonder if that, you called it a gift, I wonder if that's the yoke or the burden that he's talking about here. As opposed to a gift. Janet, I don't mean to, I'm not trying to disagree with you.
I
I just,
think the yoke keeps you connected.
yeah,
So the yoke is a gift. Because Jesus could say, okay, I've given you everything you need, now go off and do this by yourself.
yeah.
He never, ever says that. He says, link yourself to me. Be a branch on my vine. Connect with this yoke with me. He never leaves us on our own, and that is a gift.
That I agree with. But what I'm not agreeing, what I'm slightly disagreeing with is that this feeling of inadequacy, this guilt, this burden that we bear of trying to live up to some kind of standard that we created, I don't know that that's a gift.
See, that's where, when you start viewing it as a connection, that use that as a connector to God and Jesus, it becomes a gift. Not what we do to ourselves in our brains. That's not the gift. The gift is using that to focus your relationship. That's where the gift comes in.
Okay? The gift is Jesus.
Yes.
And his yoke is the gift. The stuff that I put on myself, I don't think is the
No,
gift.
no.
Okay, so is that, y'all all with me on that?
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Just a minute.
Yeah.
So Jesus says, take my yoke.
Mm-hmm.
So what was Jesus' yoke?
Jesus' yoke is him. I think it's his. We're taking his yoke to be, like Janet said, to be connected to him. It's that yoke that connects us to him.
I understand. What was the yoke that Jesus was bearing alone when he asked us to bear his yoke with him?
Are you talking about the cross? Are you talking about?
I think it's manifest in the cross for sure.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking Jesus' yoke is the yoke of God who created this world
Yeah.
and sees it go awry and wants to redeem it, wants to bring it back to what he intended it to be. That's his yoke. And that's the yoke that we're called to bear with him. Now, all these other things that we're talking about, yokes of our own, I believe that works into it. But I'm not disagreeing with what's been said
Sure.
about what our yokes are. But I think the yoke right here that Jesus is talking about, he wants us to bear with him, is his yoke, his concern as God for creation and mankind. And we're asked to be a part of that, okay? So I think all these things we're talking about are part of that. But I think the primary yoke, again, it's God's yoke. It's Jesus' yoke. That's what I'm thinking.
Jesus was yoked to God. He was. I mean, they're together, right?
Yeah.
They have a special relationship. Matter of fact, in the verses right before this, it talks about him, the Father and the Son, being connected together. If you know the Father,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, but you're describing what a yoke does. I'm trying to say what the yoke is. What is the burden that Jesus bears, that he's asking us
to be yoked to him with? What is that burden?
Okay.
It's the
That's-
reconciling of us to God, I think is what you're saying. That is God's yoke, or Jesus' yoke, was what he's all about, is reconciling.
Mhm.
Reconciliation.
He mourned over Jerusalem, saying would that they would come to him like a mother hen would collect her chicks, you know. He was sad that they weren't coming, you know, to
Yeah.
him. It was
Mhm.
that was a burden, I suppose, you know.
Yeah.
He was wanting them to come, and they weren't coming.
Well, and this part of the discussion kind of goes right along with this idea of privilege and responsibility. Okay, so the privilege that we have of being yoked with God, or yoked with Jesus, means we also take on his burden, the things that he wants to accomplish in this world, which goes to the two greatest commandments: love and then to love each other. I think that's very good. You got something else?
Yeah, I think that all the burdens that we feel,
Mhm.
you know, in the workplace, relationships, all those things, I think that we gain perspective on those problems that we have when we bear the yoke of God.
Mhm.
It's not about dismissing those burdens that we have. We can't
Right.
dismiss them, they're very real.
Right.
But there's a perspective that's gained when we take on the burden of God
Mhm.
that,
It helps us handle
yeah,
those
oh,
things
yeah,
that
oh,
we
yeah, oh,
deal
yeah.
with
I
in
mean,
this life.
I think about things that I've worried about, you know.
Mhm.
You get these things, you start just worrying about stuff. You know, we all have these every day,
Mhm.
and some of us are bigger worriers than others.
Right.
And those worries become our little yokes
Mhm.
until we recognize they're not very big when you consider the big yoke, okay?
Yeah.
And the fact that, and then that functionally, with that big yoke, that's not ours either, because we're yoked to Jesus. We're in this together.
Yeah. It's good. Anybody else? That's
I
good.
think the ultimate goal of the kingdom is to usher in a new creation.
Yes.
And we are given jobs to work with God in ushering in that new creation. And I think what Jesus is saying here is when that new creation is realized, we are going to have that eternal Sabbath rest
Right.
that is going to set all things right.
Mhm.
And being yoked to that plan and that mission is not burdensome, it's a
Right.
blessing.
Yeah, and the part that bothers me a little bit is it says that it's light, it's not heavy. And is that,
Because we're not carrying it ourselves.
well, that's the point that I was thinking about too, is that when we think about it, we think about this burden being huge. It's like a heavy weight on my shoulders. If I take on the sins of the world, you know, I gotta go do all these things. But the fact is, the burden, he's carrying the burden, and we're helping him with it in some capacity, whatever he calls us to do. And that, to me, does that bring rest to us? Because it talks about giving us rest. I mean,
Well, if you share something with someone, that should give you some rest, rather than carrying it all by yourself.
well, so we got two things we're talking about here. We're talking about the burdens that we have, and then the burden that Steve was talking about, the burden that God, his burden, or his yoke. And to me, when we talk about these, is on one hand, it helps us deal with our own burdens and knowing that he's helping us, he's with us, he's part of that. And then the other one is helping his burden, his mission, and how we take on that. To me, that they're two different things, slightly different things maybe. I don't know that his mission is way too heavy for us. And ours may be too heavy for us too, but he's gonna help us with it. Is that what we're saying, these verses mean? What?
I don't know, Gerald. It doesn't, I don't think it says, all you guys with all your worries, you bring those yokes to me and I'll take care of them and life will be easy.
Mhm.
I think it's, you bring your yokes, your burdens, and you become a part of my yoke and what I'm about, and yours are gonna be taken care of. Because you gain perspective and a lot of stuff happens. So I don't think it's necessarily separate. I think it's all part of the same thing. I mean, I just think about personal experiences I've had that I've got all wrapped up about and all anxious about. And then, you know, you come back to earth with, you know, I'm a Jesus follower, Jesus is gonna take care of you, okay? All right? And it's not that I take everything and just as an individual, no, God's gonna take care of my individual needs, okay? It's that you become wrapped up in what His mission is and who He is and what He's trying to do, so that your perspective towards all those other things changes, you know?
Yeah.
That's...
Janet?
When that younger animal is yoked to the older, well-trained, stronger, it is the stronger one that guides the direction of where they go. It is the older one that is guiding how the job gets done. And so if we yoke ourselves to Jesus, He will guide us to how we are to pursue things and where we are supposed to go and what we are supposed to say. So this yoking is not just carrying the burden, it's also having a guide for what's going on. It's a bigger picture than just the burden.
Good, good, yeah.
Touch a little bit about what Steve just said. If you circle back around to the first of the chapter about the blind will see, the lame will walk. Your burden, these people were living under great fear. If they took one step too many, they would be ostracized.
Mhm.
Jesus is saying, your burden, let's feed the hunger. Let's take care of the lame man. Let's take care of the blind man. That's the easy burden, not how many steps am I going to take today.
Yeah.
That's the easier burden, take care of those that are on the outside.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's good.
It's good.
All right.
And that trust should provide rest. I know you were asking about rest.
Yeah, I just
And
feel
that's
like,
so hard to deal with sometimes.
Yeah.
When you do have burdens on your
Mhm.
plate. But we should trust enough that we should be able to rest.
Well, and think about who he's talking to, John the Baptist, in prison. You know, he's probably carrying pretty heavy, he knows he's gonna die probably. And he's, keep trusting in Him to help him through that. All right, see y'all.
Oh, yeah.